Welcome to this episode of the St. Augustine Chronicles, the where, the who, and the how'd they get there. Thanks for joining me. Today as my guest, I have Daryl Perritt with Smokin D's Barbecue. If you're a resident of St. Johns County and particularly St. Augustine, you've seen his barbecue, you've seen his little barbecue shops and restaurants, and Daryl's a super interesting person. How he got his start is interesting to me. Didn't have a restaurant background.
No, didn't have any of that. Hadn't been in a restaurant since I was 15.
So I thought we'd share his story and give you a little history about how he came to be. So Daryl, did you grow up here in St. Augustine?
No, I was I joke that I'm the only redneck you'll ever meet. Daddy was a redneck and Mama was a Canuck. I was born in South Central Georgia and was in Tallahassee in the late 60s. God, I'm getting old.
Yeah, there's this. Whoa.
and when they divorced, Mom took me and my two brothers to Western Canada. So
I can still hear a little bit of a Canadian accent,
every
but
once
not
in a while,
much.
if I start talking to the family from Georgia, there's a little lot of accent that comes out there. If I start talking to the family from Canada, then the A's start getting dropped. It all depends on who I'm talking to. But yeah, so I ended up going to high school in Western Canada and kind of getting re-educated, and I think that really truly changed my perspective on the world and my perspective on life and my perspective on people.
How?
Well, I was always fascinated because to start with, everything that I ever thought or knew or planned, baseball, football, all of those things, all of that was taken away. All of the dreams that a child might have at 11 years old gets taken away. And suddenly you're in this totally other place. And these people speak a little different. They don't look any different. They have a little different style about how they talk and what they do. The education system was far superior to what I had been going through in the Deep South at that period of time. So I obviously struggled a lot trying to catch up to all of that. And then, just it always was in my mind, well, because we were within 2 miles of the Canadian border. My mother would cross the border, and it was cheaper for groceries and gas, so she'd fill up her tank and get some eggs and get milk, and she would buy grits because we had grits, and you couldn't get grits in Canada, and I grew up on grits, so she would get grits and bacon and
But she was a Canadian.
She was a Canadian, but when she came down here, she spent 12 years learning how to be a Southern lady. So she was and then the children we were eating fried chicken and grits, and then you were up there was no fried chicken and grits. So she was having to go across and get that to try and bring some of the culture that we had grown up with down there up there. And it took a long time for me to kind of put it all together.
The kids there must have thought you were from another planet, right? You had a Southern accent, probably.
Right?
And heavy
that was
coming from Georgia.
I was like, it was really, it was a total cultural shock in every way. I mean, we don't have basements in Florida. Grandpa built us bedrooms in the basement. So I've never been in a basement. Suddenly I'm
living underground.
I'm living underground
in a bunker.
We look out and it's looking at ground level, and he lived on a pond, and the first winter we were there, it snowed and the lake froze. And
then you learned how to play hockey?
Well, you don't start learning that at 12 because the kids that are 3 are zipping by you and you're out there trying to keep from busting your teeth. So
I grew up in Wisconsin.
Right.
Where we play hockey too.
Right, exactly. So you were part of that.
Yeah.
I was not part of that. All of this was foreign. So I rebelled pretty severely, and so did my older brother. My younger brother, he was still pretty young and hadn't spent as much time, but we rebelled pretty hard, and it was not an easy transition for anybody who knew me or anybody. It was quite a, and it took me a long time, a really long time to gain an appreciation for their culture, because they were wrong and I was right. And then
how old were you when you moved there?
11. So, if you grow with that, it takes a long time for you to go, well, no, maybe there's not a right and wrong here. Maybe they're just a difference. That's all.
Yeah.
It's not right and wrong. They're not wrong and you're not right.
But the Canadians seem like they'd be pretty patient with somebody like you. They don't seem like they're not the Brits.
But the problem was I wasn't patient. I was a stubborn redneck from the South. You were not going to tell me certain things. I mean, we were there for 2 years, and it's a valley. Everybody speaks English just as good as anybody else, all of that. And they told me that I couldn't graduate high school unless I learned French. And I said, well, why? Because I don't see any Frenchmen, because I'm on the West Coast. And then they tell me, well, it's not real French, it's French Canadian. And I was like, you know what? Y'all can have. Again, it just didn't make sense to me, so a lot of things didn't make sense to me. And it just takes, as a kid, it just takes time to grow up and to adjust and to not judge and to not, so that was kind of, but I spent a lot of time up there, and my brother and my mother still live up there. And
are you allowed to go back and visit?
Oh, I've got dual Canadian citizenship. Believe me. Oh yeah, I made sure of that. Yeah. It was very, very, I tried before I came down to get dual citizenship, and it was just never really possible. Just conflict. I was just coming down for 6 months to work for an uncle in Georgia, and just to get out of Canada and say, okay, well, I'm 22 years old, want to travel, let me get out of there. I ended up staying, but my younger brother joins the United States Marines several years later, and when he got out, the United States Marines got him dual citizenship in Canada. So I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
They told me I couldn't do it when I was there. How did the United States Marines get this? So eventually I hired a lawyer and said, there's some paperwork I'm not figuring out. My mother's Canadian.
Maybe your name's on some blacklist
Right,
somewhere?
No, there was not. No, most of the blacklists were in Canada, not. So that was, but yeah, I have dual citizenship. I go back every year. I take my kids back. I think there is no better education for anybody other than to live for an extended period of time in another country. And I don't care what country it is.
I agree.
It just opens your mind to everything. It's just so hard to do that in your own neighborhood.
Well, it's also hard to do it in America because I think my kids have dual citizenship also. Their father's German and I'm obviously American.
Yeah.
And it's, in Europe, it's much easier to travel to other countries.
Exactly.
Because it's smaller, whereas with the States, it's very difficult to get out of the States. You go 8 hours in Europe and you can pass through 3 different countries.
My daughter,
and the culture changes greatly.
Exactly. My daughter just went to school in Scotland. And we went over there and we traveled by train. We went to, where did we go?
They're set up for it.
Huh?
They're set up for travel.
Exactly. So I was shocked. We were on a train from Copenhagen to Germany, and it's a peninsula, but it wasn't going from Copenhagen, which is an island, over to the peninsula. It was going south, and I'm going, there's an ocean there. How are they going to do that? We got off of that train, got on another train that went on a ferry. I never could even imagine a ferry carrying a train.
Yeah, they totally have it down.
But I was like, what?
Yeah.
We stood there, we got on another train, the train went on the ferry landed in Germany, and we got off. Yeah. We took the train out of that.
And now that it's all the Eurozone, it's much easier
it
too
was
in most of Europe.
Incredible. Right. It was so much fun. It's again, same thing. Spend some time someplace else, you opens your
totally
mind
agree.
and you learn so many things.
Yeah,
so,
I
so
absolutely agree.
that's just thing. But I've been back here for 30 years now.
So you went from Canada to Georgia, I guess, mainly?
Yeah, I went from Canada. My cousin was getting married and wanted me to come down for the wedding, so I came down from the wedding. At the wedding, I was going to work for the one uncle in Georgia, and the other uncle was in Tallahassee. Well, FSU or Waycross, Georgia. As a young man, FSU and Tallahassee seemed a lot more appealing than Waycross, Georgia.
Wow, Waycross, Georgia must have been really unappealing for you to choose Tallahassee and FSU.
Yeah, it wasn't much of a choice. So the one uncle said, I need some help in Tallahassee with his business. So I said, yeah, Uncle Charlie or Uncle Spencer, Waycross, Tallahassee, coming with you, Charlie.
So what'd you do there?
So, well, the family had always been in some form of the newspaper business. Distribution, various publishing, and so I worked for him. He had contracts to bring about 6 different newspapers into Tallahassee. They all want their local newspaper when people actually used to read newspapers. So I would drive all night from 11 o'clock to Gainesville, pick up some New York Times, drive 2 blocks, pick up some Gainesville Sun, drive 50 miles, pick up some New York Times, drive 100 miles and pick up some Orlando Sentinel. And I had to be all the way back in Tallahassee by 6 a.m. And they distribute them to all the legislatures and all of the out there. So I drove 5 nights a week, all night.
When was this, approximately? I mean, it seems
1983, 84.
Yeah, so you and I are probably about the same age, and hearing that now seems incredibly inefficient. But back then we didn't have the internet. We didn't. I mean, nothing.
No.
You couldn't get. You had to actually physically go get the papers.
Absolutely. The Tampa Tribune.
Doesn't it seem like Little House on the Prairie times?
Oh, listen,
How did that
and
work?
you can see some interesting things at 4 o'clock in the morning in Perry, Florida. Let me tell you.
But tell me.
Oh, I mean, there was a kid, I'll never forget this kid. I had to stop at all of the convenience stores because he had the newspaper racks. So you would put 10 newspapers in, 10 Tampa Tribune, 10 New York Times, whatever, and you put it.
Oh,
As a
yeah,
kid,
you
4
saw some
o'clock in
stuff.
the morning, he probably was no more than 10 years old, and he tried to pick a fight with me. I'm 25, he's this tall, and I'm going, I will kick your ass. And I'm like, where is your mother? Where is your father? What is, I mean, it was right back to, I mean, it still exists. That level of redneck still exists. If you think it's just in Georgia, no.
Get out a little bit. The middle of Florida.
Go over to Newberry. Go over to Perry. Go over to
Yeah.
Steinhatchee. I'm going to tell you, it's still there.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
So, so I did that, and,
How long did you last at that?
oh,
Because
well.
you seem like you're more of a people person, and that seems like more of a solitary thing.
Well, it was very solitary all night long.
Right.
But I was going to school during the day. So I took some business classes. I always wanted to open a business. Everybody in the family had been an entrepreneur of some sort, mostly in the publishing and newspaper distribution, book distribution, various things. The uncle in Georgia was the largest secondary book wholesaler in the country. When they published a bunch of books, if they had 20,000 left over, everything from Bibles to sports things, he would buy them by the pound and resell them to the individual bookstores.
Which again, without the internet, that seems
That's
like it's
what
probably
people
really
did.
hard. Yeah.
Absolutely. He would buy truckloads of books, every kind you can imagine. Hardback, beautiful coffee table books, Bibles, fishing books, cookbooks, everything. And people from around the country would go there and buy them and take them to their bookstore and sell them. So that was his thing. The other uncle was the newspaper distribution in Tallahassee. when I got out of school, I started working for Knight Ridder, the Tallahassee Democrat.
What's your, did you get a journalism degree or?
No, I just got business. Took some business classes. I won a little competition for an idea in marketing, and the judge was the advertising director for the Tallahassee Democrat, and he said, "I want to hire you. You can sell," because you had to write a business model and a business plan and sell it, and he liked the idea. He liked my pitch, and he hired me to work for Knight Ridder and for him. And so I sold advertisement in Tallahassee for several years, and then I got married. My wife was a flight attendant, and we moved to back it up. I started my own magazine, and it did not succeed. So there was...
What was the focus of the magazine?
Well, it was one of those, you bite off more than you realize and you can chew.
Yeah, but you got to think big as an entrepreneur.
Well, there were people who did what I did. Actually, I worked for them years later, but, you don't realize just how much capital you need.
Yeah, always as an
entrepreneur. And it was just, you can't imagine how vastly. I needed millions and I had thousands. Yeah. So it was just, but the focus was in the tourism business, and you were able to, and I had known all about the newspaper distribution, known about the advertising sales, and known about publishing. So I started a magazine called About Florida that was sold through newspaper racks at the rest areas and at the Welcome Center. So for 75 cents, you could buy a tabloid that would tell you every event from your Rhythm and Ribs here to the Sun and Fun Festival in Fort Lauderdale.
And nobody had done it yet?
Nobody had ever done anything like that. The state of Florida produced a little black and white calendar, but nobody had done anything like that. And that was just, and then I did stories on the springs and all of the unique things about Florida, and I sold it. Shockingly enough, the Division of Tourism was not a fan of somebody producing something of better quality and superior information. I thought I was helping tourism, but apparently the tourism industry, the state didn't really, they didn't like that. So they kind of started squeezing me, and I was already living on a shoestring. So when it bit the dust, I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm leaving.
Yeah, lesson learned.
Yeah, lesson learned. So you're not going to get anything from them. And like I said, I moved here.
But why here? How'd you get here?
I actually originally moved to Flagler Beach. I just started
why? Because she had to fly out of Orlando, or
no?
I'm always interested in how people actually chose this place.
Well, I have no idea.
You win the best answer, Daryl.
I have no idea. All I know is I ended up in Flagler Beach.
Well, if she was a flight attendant.
At that time, my mind was probably not in the best.
But if she was
I was exceedingly broke.
So inexpensive beach, she could get to Orlando.
Right. She wanted to live at the beach her whole life. So, I said, fine, we'll do what you want to do. I'll figure out how to make a living when I get there.
And you had two kids at that time?
I had one at that time, and then the second one was born in Flagler Beach, or actually Daytona. But and then eventually, the advertising and the marketing experience that I had and tourism led me to St. Augustine. So it was such a good tourism industry and everything. Right. And I think that's where I met you.
Yeah, but I met you after you founded Smokin D's.
Did you?
Yeah. So what did you do then once you kind of came to St. Augustine?
Well, I was in this building at Riberia. The company I worked for was Miles Media. They produced the See St. Augustine book, which was a tourism book, and
basically it was your book.
Yeah. Well, I took it. It was. Yeah,
it was
mine was trying to be statewide, but they focused on getting the tourist from the hotel into the restaurant.
Right.
And that, now we all use cell phones, but back in the day, they always used print.
Yep.
So they hired me. this market had not been managed very well. And so it took a long time for kind of the locals to accept somebody who wasn't born here, wasn't, but
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
well, I mean, yeah, my comment, and somebody once told me this, he said, the good old boy network is friends doing business with friends. If you can't break into the good old boy network, that means you don't know how to make friends.
Oh,
You just don't know how to make friends.
okay.
And friendship comes from trust. So I had to build up a lot of trust. You're somebody that I don't know. You're somebody from out of town. I can do business with my friend, or I can do business with somebody I don't know and somebody I don't know whether to trust. So you have to build up that trust. You have to accept that's what we all do. So it took a few years. And fortunately, the company I worked for was patient with me. And I said, this is not going to get turned around quick.
Yeah.
You've had 3 reps in here that have lied to people and manipulated and screwed it up. I basically gave away the book for 2 years. All of the advertisement in one form or another was pretty much given away. But I did what I said I was going to do. I was honest, and I built up credibility. And then it became a profitable book for the company. And that was when St. Johns County went from created the Visitor and Convention Bureau. And the company I worked for, we got the contract to produce the first vacation guide for the Visitor and Convention Bureau.
Yep.
And so all of the hoteliers that had been distributing my book, I built the trust with them. And so I did very well. I was a Northeast Florida rep. I went from Lake City. As they expanded, the company got the state of Florida's vacation guide. Does that sound familiar? I was producing it. They were doing pretty much what I did, except they had millions. I didn't. So I handled all of that for Northeast Florida. And I met so many people in St. Augustine. And now that I'm in the barbecue business, I actually miss them dearly. They are some of the kindest, nicest, funniest, fun people. This community, if you really learn, the people in it are just, I think that good old boy network really just wants to, they know they have a jewel.
Yeah.
And they want to keep it polished.
Yeah.
They don't want it ruined. Having the best school system in the state of Florida didn't happen by accident.
Right.
In this town. It happened because the people with the power and with the money and with the resources and with a true concern for this town and this community and this county, they made sure we had the best education system. There's a reason we don't have 60-story condos on the beach.
Right.
It's because they went, you know what? That's
Not
ugly.
high crime.
That's ugly. Mm-hmm. So they put those regulations so that we don't have that. And that's what makes St. Augustine authentic, unique, and special.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just more a worry, the good old boy network, which is still around, we know it, but it's a worry that we respect, I think, what this area is.
Yeah. I mean,
we don't ruin it.
Yeah, don't screw it up. Yeah. Can you be trusted with this beautiful jewel?
Right.
That's what we want. You can add to it if you've got something to bring, but don't just try to take. Don't just come to a community, any community, and just take. That's not right.
But that's true anywhere. You know, you got to give before you can get, always.
Right, exactly.
In sales.
Exactly. Yes, you've got to give, and you've got to be willing to help others.
Yeah.
And as long as you're willing to give back and help others and build trust and not take advantage, I think that makes a happy family, a happy business, a happy community.
So you had all these contacts. You were very successful. You were in sales. You had a publishing knowledge base. And you woke up one day and said, I'm going to open a barbecue joint.
Well, no. I was making a reasonably okay living. I wasn't, the first property I bought was a 30-year-old single wide trailer in Flagler Beach. I sold it and made money on it because of it was location. I came here. I bought a house on the island, Surf Drive, 1957. Hadn't been touched since 1967, and I just said,
Those are gold mines now.
Oh, well, that's what it ended up being. I was very fortunate. I didn't know anything about plumbing and electrical or flooring or painting or anything, but I was like,
how hard can that be?
I got to figure it out. Well, when I do it, I got to do it 3 or 4 times. Somebody who's a professional does it once and does it right. I got to make the mistake and take 12 trips to Home Depot. But I did that, and when I just was very lucky and sold that at the top of the market, and then the market crashed. And so I was afraid to buy anything, but for the first time in my life, I actually had a little bit of money again, from, all of my problems in the past economically. And after a year, I had a really great year, but I had spent way too much of that money. And so I realized that I needed to buy something. If I didn't buy it, I was going to...
You're going to go through it.
I was going to burn through it. Sure, let's... It's just... You've got kids.
Yeah.
And so I ended up... I had a friend who was in real estate, in commercial, and I drove by that place down there.
And that place is at 206,
206
in
and
US 1.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was abandoned. And
it had to look really bad.
Oh, it was beyond. Well,
right?
It was beyond.
Like tear down.
It was vague. Well, all it was, there was a pit. There was a barbecue pit there, and it was, I think, 8 feet by 8 feet was the actual room, and then a roof over, and a huge oak tree had crushed it, and literally vagrants were sleeping in it.
And you thought, this is where I want to put my money. This will be a good move.
Sure, this is perfect, right?
I won't lose my money here.
Right, exactly. I had never been in the food business, didn't know. I really just bought it and said, just like my house, I'm going to make it pretty. I'm going to fix it up. I'll sell watermelons and bull peanuts and barbecue on the weekend. And in 2 years, as the real estate market goes up, I'll sell it, and I'll stay selling advertising and marketing. It's just a weekend thing. I'll just, I'll set somebody out there selling that. Well, I had no idea how to do any of that.
I mean, how'd you even get a certificate of occupancy for the place?
Oh, that's such a long story. It had been abandoned. It had huge restrictions that were not even legal. You couldn't sell things that the convenience store next door sold.
And how was that, in the deed?
That was in the deed and in the agreement. Somehow the previous owner that had abandoned it, to get to sell barbecue, they asked the store, and the store said yes, as long as they don't sell anything that the store has. Now, you can't tell one commercial place.
Right, that's why I'm
the
confused.
Next one, but there was this variance in the county.
Oh, okay, it was a variance.
And that's not something I go looking for, and I don't know anything about it. So, I just go, look, I'm just going to open up the little barbecue place, and I'll clean it up. And I spent all of the money I had. I spent all of my 401k, and I paid the mortgage on it for almost 3 years, and I still was not open. It was the legal and difficulty. You got to understand that's property is on the county. It is faced by State Road 206, so it was the state of Florida's rules on one side, and it was the federal government. That's U.S. Highway 1. So I had the federal government, the state government, and the county government. And it didn't matter who you ask. One would give you one answer, and the other one would say you couldn't do this. And so
But you never quit. I mean,
if you don't have a choice, if you put all your money at it, you just got to keep going. I had no choice. I wasn't going to get my money out of it if I didn't open it up. All of it was gone. You have no choice. That's life. Life's a river. You're going in one direction. Doesn't matter what the rapids hit. You're keeping going.
But you didn't even have a restaurant background.
Oh, no. I knew how to smoke meat. I know how to smoke. I hung out with the Indians in the Pacific Northwest. I know how to smoke fish. I know how to smoke things.
Is that how you learned how to do it?
Oh, yeah. Hang out on the reservations. The Indians know how to smoke everything. Everything.
Yeah,
everything. If you know anything about British Columbia, you know how to smoke everything.
That could be a reason why the state didn't want you to do that. And the feds, no.
But I didn't know how to do anything like that on a commercial level. But, I cashed in my kids' 501c college fund once I got the place certified to open. To get the first food order. But I guess because it had taken so long and it had been abandoned for so long, that when I finally opened up, everybody wanted to see it. Everybody wanted to come do it. Everybody wanted the barbecue. And
was it because they knew you?
No. They just been driving by, because I was keeping it on the down low from all my customers and all publishing and advertising in the company. I wasn't letting anybody know that Daryl was doing this. I was just going to open it up on weekends and sell it. Right. But it exploded. The first day I opened, I sold everything in 45 minutes.
You are kidding me.
Nope.
45 minutes?
I had no idea what to cook. So, because again, I never been in the car. I know how to smoke. I smoked fish. I smoked ribs. I built my own smokers. I know how to do it all, but there's a hell of a difference between, 10 pounds in your backyard and 60 pounds.
Right.
And
you got to order from the distributors.
And how many ribs? And you're broke too. I'm back you have gone into something that you're vastly undercapitalized for and have no equipment. And the beans, I had one piece of equipment, the smoker. The commercial smoker and the pit were the only pieces of restaurant certified equipment that I had.
Was your menu the same the first day as it is now?
Almost 90%. It took me about 10 years to accept I needed to add another side.
Which is
I now do potato salad. Only because they grow great potatoes in Hastings, Barnes Farms.
Yeah.
Go out there, get their cabbage. I get my cabbage from Barnes Farms, and we get our potatoes from Blue Sky.
Oh, good for you.
I go out there. I hear a lot of restaurants talk about farm to table, but I ain't ever seen any of them on a farm. I don't know where farm they're going to, but the two I go to are Blue Sky and Barnes. And
great people.
And they're great people, and they do a great job.
Generational farms.
Well, there's an interesting show. If you want to do another show, some of those guys out there know so much, and they're so knowledgeable, and they're so interesting.
Yep, they're on my list.
Yeah, good.
Some of those Hastings people.
So I'm not a restaurant. It created itself because I couldn't sell all of the things. You couldn't sell ice. I couldn't sell sodas. I couldn't do so I just smoked meat in the smoker, and we put it in the pit, and we hold it in the pit until you order it, and then we cut it. We do not cut anything until you walk to the door, which today people get a little confused. They're calling ahead for orders.
They think it's going to be
and they think it's going to be ready. I'm like, this ain't a pizza. Sorry. It's not the way we do it. So again, I'm having to train people to what real smokehouse operation is.
So, real smokehouse, you must get up at what? I don't know if you still are in charge of the smoker, but you had to get up at what, 2 or 3 in the morning?
Remember, I did that all-night job. I was pretty much used to it. But yes, we have not stopped smoking for, I guess it's about 15 years now.
But the meat's got to go in
7
early.
days, except for closing, the smoker is running 24/7 and has been for 15 years. It's always going because there's only one way to really do it. I mean, you know, yes, you can do ribs in your backyard and you and your buddies can sit around and drink beer until that rack of ribs is perfect. But I got to have ribs, turkey, brisket, pork, chicken ready at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
I got to have it ready at 1 o'clock. And I got to have it. It can't be, you can't be the dried out. There's no microwave. We're not heating anything up. There's no doors in the kitchen. We're not doing magic. We're not dumping sauce on it. It's perfect right now when I cut it, when I order it. And that's why we run out.
So somebody's going in really early in the morning, which had to be you in the beginning.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. All
so
night.
what time do you go? What time were you going in back then?
We were loading the smoker at 7 o'clock at night. I was having to go back in about 1 o'clock in the morning and then back again about 6 a.m.
And 1 o'clock to what? Turn it, flip it, or
No,
stoke the fire?
different meats. Every meat absorbs the meat at a different rate.
How did you know this though, Daryl?
Just cooking in my backyard, different things, and also because you have to just
you try it.
Right? Yeah. If it tastes like an ashtray, you did it wrong.
Yeah.
Just keep doing it. But we sold out of everything in the first 45 minutes, and everybody loved it. And why did everybody love it? Because it was sold out in 45 minutes. It was perfect.
Yeah.
And so we just stayed with that philosophy of if I give perfect barbecue in every meat every day, they will accept the fact that I run out.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, it trains you. When we go at whatever 6:45 and you're out, we say tomorrow night we're going at 6.
Right.
We're not going to do that again. And I always tell my husband, call ahead. And he goes, no, they won't be out. Ooh.
Yeah. Well, and that's the real difficult part about the whole business is guessing how hungry everybody is going to be 12 or 24 hours ahead.
Right.
Because that's what it takes. It takes 12 hours to cook pork butts and have them ready and fresh. This is not.
Your pork's my favorite, by the way.
Yeah, oh, good. Well, see, now pork is easier because it's got a lot of fat in it, so it'll hold itself well. Yeah. But turkey, don't overcook that turkey. It's got no fat in it. It's going to be dry, so you have to cook it at a far less amount of time. And
so everything's the same temperature, obviously. You just have to adjust for time.
Well, you finish it in the pit, and that's where a pit master has to. There are some great chefs in this town who do great things. Chefs create a meal. A pit master has to hold that meat in its perfect state until the customer says, I want it. That's a smokehouse. That's a pit master. That's not what barbecue restaurants do. I'm not complaining about other barbecue restaurants. It's just that we're not a barbecue restaurant. We're a smokehouse, and our job is to hold that product in its suspended state of perfection until the customer says, give me a pound of turkey. Give me a rack of ribs. So
Daryl, I can see where you realize very quickly, I got to quit my day job. This is now my new full-time life, right?
Right, yeah.
So I can see where when you were doing it, you controlled it. But once you got big enough where you needed some help, how do you feel confident to turn it over to someone else for the first time?
Well, I didn't ever turn it over. I was working this morning at the downtown shop. So you may not see me behind the counter, but I'm still making the decisions of what meats go and when, and my son is making and I was very, very blessed that within the first 30 days of opening, Mike, if you're out there and you see this, please, Mike Lynch used to own Mike's sandwich shop with his wife, Barbara. He was one of my customers. Had a great sandwich shop downtown, closed it when the newspaper left and the county moved out. I was literally, my head was in the smoker trying to do things. My legs were dangling out the back of it. And he walked up with Barbara and said, looked like you could use a help, because I had a line out the door. And again, not being in the restaurant business, I didn't understand. I mean, I could do one, but
there's a lot of back of the house
creating
that
a
has to-
machine
yeah,
like that was,
yeah.
and
The
he,
back of the
I
house.
said, get an apron on, and Mike lynched, organized the system, helped me create the system of when, how, what, and efficiency, because we had all the customers, but getting,
You can't wing it at some point.
yeah, right. Well, it wasn't even that. It was just impossible for me to
To focus.
to
probably.
do all of the smoking,
Yeah.
all of the buying. So he became my first pit master. He managed that pit. He taught every single pit master we have today how you hold that meat in that perfect state. He took over the pit, and I took over the smoking, and when things went in and when they came out and what we did. And
He
but
probably helped you with how to order from vendors and how to negotiate
all of that. Yeah,
those,
he'd been in the
right?
restaurant business.
Right. Yeah,
He-
'cause you got to negotiate with your vendors.
Yeah, yeah.
constantly.
Well, on all kinds of things. I mean, he grew up in the hotel business in Jacksonville. He'd worked at South Seas Plantation. He knew the food business, so he came in and helped so much. I could focus on maintaining the quality. I could focus on customer service. I could focus on the speed. Mike could say, we got chicken now. We got ribs now. No more pork. No more, and we got it coming out when. And he could manage that. He was really a really smart guy about math in his head, because when you look at our board, people are calling in, like you will call in. I need a pound of turkey.
In an hour.
And in an hour, I need a pound of turkey and a rack of ribs and a chicken.
yeah.
Well, you got to know how many are in the pit.
Yeah.
How many are in the smoking? When are they coming out? How many do I have to sell?
Right.
So the customer comes in and says, I need a whole chicken. Do I have a chicken to sell? Well, I got one on the board and two there. So yeah, we can have a chicken. Or no, this chicken's been spoken for. Having that kind of a brain, he trained me back there, and he trained every one of our pit masters. So I would have figured it out eventually,
The hard way, though.
but man, oh man. Mike Lynch, I'm sure lots of your customers here will remember him from
Yeah.
being downtown for years. Barbara, his wife, wonderful people. So we did that. I sold out the first 45 minutes. I bought every pork butt from every Publix and Walmart within 20 miles.
So you weren't even buying from suppliers then?
The beans are all, people ask about my beans.
Listen, I don't like baked beans. I love your baked beans. I do not like baked beans.
And that's another example of necessity creates it.
But how'd you know how you didn't own a restaurant?
I
You're
didn't
just a really
I didn't
good
have a
cook?
choice. I didn't have a choice. I had one machine. All I had was a smoker.
But are you just a really good cook? Like, how'd you know how to make baked beans that someone like me who doesn't like baked beans will go, I like those baked beans?
I didn't have a choice. I look at a bean recipe. How do you cook them? I only got one choice. I only have the smoker to cook them in. If you only got one machine to smoke them in, they're coming out. So start putting the beans in and put them in the smoker. And so nobody cook their beans in smoker. People come today, I'd love to have your bean recipe. I said, you get the first ingredient. Okay, what's that?
Smoker.
A $27,000 smoker, and I'll give you the rest of it after that. No problem. You get that, and that's fine. So
I never thought of that, but now I get it.
yeah, I didn't have any choice. I mean, we were working out of a
Because
crock pot.
there is a smoked flavor to them.
Absolutely. And all the drippings from the meat is going in there. That's why we're called the Vegetarian Recovery Center.
Well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. So you got your sides that you just made up by trial and error?
Yeah. Well, Mike helped me with the yellow rice. Coleslaw, I got cabbage.
No, but there's good and bad coleslaw.
Yeah, but there's cabbage. You can't get fresher cabbage than growing it 20 miles or 6 miles from the shop.
So I have to tell you, Daryl, sometimes your coleslaw tastes different than other times. Is that because of the seasonal thing with cabbage?
It could be, but
you're getting it so fresh?
The most challenging part about any of it is getting employees or people to do things the same way. So that was when you ask about giving it up. Well, how hot is hot? Well, my hot is different than your hot.
Yeah.
My sweet is different than your sweet.
Yeah.
So trying to get somebody to make the hot barbecue sauce exactly the same way, well, that's not hot. I want to put a little more hot cayenne in there. It's hard for people to do that, and to some extent, I want you to put your own spin on it. You're a pit master. You're in charge here to make sure that this meat stays perfect. So it gets a little more difficult with coleslaw and with hot sauce and other things. But so it's not uncommon that every once in a while things are a little different.
Yeah, one time I said,
but that just means somebody there decided to try something new, and maybe you like it, maybe you don't. I try to keep them within a kind of a
I'll
lane.
tell you what, your Alabama hot sauce, I put that on everything. Whenever we go, I always ask
The
them.
white sauce?
Yeah, sorry, white sauce, Alabama white sauce. I love that stuff. And I use it on eggs. I use it on everything. And so whenever we go pick up an order, I always say, hey, can I get that really big container of white sauce? I don't care how much you charge me. If you sell it by the gallon, I'll buy it.
Well, that was when I was researching the barbecue there. The story of why there is no national barbecue chains is because every region has their own barbecue.
Yep.
So,
in Wisconsin, I can tell you barbecue is not anything.
Right, exactly.
like what we do
right.
here.
Everybody had their own, and they are very territorial about it. And
bragging rights.
Yeah, it's all bragging rights, and I was like, it's meat smoked with wood. Sorry, it's not that complicated. Just pay attention to what you're doing. It's not, it's not turn on gas and get to a medium temperature and cook it for 2 hours. No, you're cooking with wood. Okay, there's fire, there's fat, there's smoke. Your spice is the smoke. That's how you doing is your spice is the smoke. So, this is the first way we cooked when we killed antelope 100,000 years ago in Africa. We cooked it with wood, So this is when they talk about how it's so special and it's so, no, it requires you to stay there and pay attention to it every minute.
Well, Daryl, I know that there's this circuit that these barbecue joints go on to do these competitions at festivals, right?
Right.
So Smokin D's for a long time just had your one little shop at 206 and US 1. You don't do those competitions, do you?
We did at the Rhythm and Ribs. We won it several times.
Yeah, but that's local. I get
that was a local one, and
it's
we
easy
done it.
to do it
but
here.
no, I really think this is not good for my industry as barbecue. But the difference in the top 10 of those guys is just somebody's opinion. I like it hotter than that. I like it sweeter than that. Well, your sweet and my sweet are two different sweets. My hot and your hot. It's really just, so I don't try to make everybody happy. I know what I want, and this is the way it's going to be. It's the best I can produce. I hope you like it. If you don't, I'm not changing it.
Well, interesting you bring that up because, you talked about customer service, and your customer service is fantastic. It really, really is. When you go in, you know that they know what they're doing. If you're not there, I love to see you there, but anybody that's there, that they know what they're doing. They got it I always feel like they got it under control. And they can explain anything.
Doesn't look like it, but it.
Yeah, they give you samples. I mean, it's fantastic, and they're fast too. But there is a sign at your original location that says something like, "This ain't Burger King. If you don't like it, you can leave," or something like that.
Yeah.
So customer service, but don't tell me how to do my business.
Right. Exactly.
The customer is not king. You walk in, you're going to get what we have. If we don't have it, too bad.
Right. I mean,
learn your lesson.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a different, and that's what makes barbecue special. is I can't change it. I decided what I was going to do 12 hours ago. I can't go back 12 hours and do it now. I'm sorry if I'm out of something, but one of the signs that we have, several of the funny signs, one of the signs says, "We reserve the right to run out of what you should have ordered yesterday."
And I feel like
because I decided yesterday what I was going to cook for today.
And I feel like the whole barbecue joint culture allows you to get away with that, whereas other restaurants, they can't get away with that.
Well,
right? It's just this culture of...
Well, that, again, don't confuse restaurant with smokehouse. We're a smokehouse. We smoke it today, we sell it today. Restaurants...
Please the customer.
And where do you want to sit? Where do you want to...
Yeah, here's our menu.
This is... I'm sitting there dancing on 5 different meats in a perfect condition. I need to sell them now. I don't have choices. You don't get to come in and make a choice.
I mean, if you can't alter it either.
I can't change it.
You go to a restaurant, you can say, "Hey, I don't want this, and can you add this?
Can you make it medium rare?" Well, because he's cooking it now. I started cooking 12 hours ago. I can't change that.
So, I'm curious. I think you're a member of Rotary, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And Rhythm and Ribs is put on by the local Rotary group. So when Smokin D's, local Smokin D's comes in and wins the prize for the best, what is it, ribs or barbecue?
Best ribs one year and best sauce one year.
Against these guys that travel all over the country doing these shows. How'd that go over?
Well, it went really good with all the locals because they loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, it was the different, and it's the same thing. It's people, the judges loved the fact that it was real. I mean, but what they were doing, what they do is they can create a perfect slab of ribs. We all can create a perfect slab of ribs. If you're in this business, we had to make it perfect. So the difference really isn't a lot, but when you get there and they know, you can tell the quality, you can tell the pit master has spent the time with it, and as long as you keep it that space, everybody loved it. And all of those guys, they all patted me on the back. They were happy. They were excited. They thought it was great. There was a little bit of, "I'll get you next year" of that, but that's fun. That was great. So we had a great time.
Good.
We couldn't have had a better time. My son, Cameron is the one who did that. And he's the one who won best ribs. Those were his ribs that
good for him.
He was about it. So he won that, and he won best sauce.
Which one?
I think it was either his daddle sauce that he does now or the hot sauce. I'm not sure.
I only do the Alabama white sauce.
Well,
I love that.
But the Alabama, the story I was going to tell you about the Alabama was that was something that nobody did. That was regional, northern Alabama, that I chose as the thing that northern Alabama likes. So I wanted to bring that every region of America has its own barbecue flavor, but if you come to Smokin D's, you can get all of those things from all of those places.
Yeah.
So if you want to, in the Carolinas, they have their pork sandwich with coleslaw and a vinegar. Well, you can come to us and get a pork sandwich Carolina style with the vinegar on it, the pork, the vinegar sauce. I'll make it exactly like that. The Alabama chicken is the Alabama white sauce smothered on a chicken, on half a chicken. And so that's what we tried to do. Our ribs are dry rubbed. So the brisket, we've now moved from brisket to tri-tip because it's a more expensive cut of meat, but it's got the same fat content, and it's so good.
Oh,
it absorbs the smoke so good. It's stupid expensive. Recently it went way up and then back down. We're back to being able to sell it again, but it's just, that's one of the creative things that we've done. And so what we've always tried to do is just try to say, what's the best barbecue from each region, put it in one location. Don't be afraid to sell out. and don't be afraid to say, no, this is not good enough. And that's built us in and have a little fun. We put the blues on. We tell jokes.
Speaking of having a little fun, I think people need to realize that you're really trying to do a community service. You have your vegetarian recovery center, right?
Exactly.
You're really trying to help people.
Sure. Well, we have the beans that you love. They do not have any meat in them.
Oh, I thought they had a little bit of ham or
No,
bacon.
they don't have any meat in them. So when we have had people, if you have anything for vegetarians, we do, we have coleslaw, we have yellow rice, and we have the beans.
I wonder if you could put Alabama white sauce on all. I guess you could put it on all
the Alabama white sauce is great on coleslaw. It's great on coleslaw.
I tried to keep it separate from the coleslaw, but now I'm going to try it.
Well, we make a turkey bucket with coleslaw, yellow rice, coleslaw, turkey, and white sauce on it. I have that for lunch all the time. It's really good. But I don't know, what was I talking about?
The vegetarian recovery. The community service.
So somebody comes in a vegetarian recovery. I go, you can get the beans. Well, they're cooked in the smoker. We don't have any meat in them, but there is a lot of meat fat in them because it's cooked in the smoker and the meat fat's dripping in. So that helps them recover. They're not actually eating meat. They're just eating the juices from the meat.
So you have a success story with some vegetarians. All right, well, we're running out of time, Daryl, but I also just wanted to say that I know it must have been hard for you to open a second location. I talked to your
Cameron.
crew. Yeah, your crew, all of them, when I would go in at the original one, 206 and US 1, and I always say, can you please tell Daryl to open another location? And they go, nope, he ain't interested. No, he ain't doing it.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden you did it.
There was a chain with one link.
Yeah,
like that,
and now he ain't doing it.
Well, but this is my son's. Cameron is doing it. He's doing a great job down there. And, he's working hard. He's working night and day. And
it must be kind of cool to pass on something and have him be interested in what's really turned out to be your passion.
Yeah. Till he gets as good as me, he's not there yet.
Of course, you gotta say that.
He's doing good. He's doing really good. He's following the formula that we created, which is, this is a smokehouse, not a restaurant.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
And push the money down to the staff. Push the money down to the people who do the work. We didn't take credit cards, not because I wanted to inconvenience people for so many years. I just couldn't bring myself to take money from the staff to give to a banker or to a financial institution. It wasn't that couldn't take give that 2.75% to the staff, and so he's learned that lesson. The people that work for you are the people that are going to make sure the coleslaw is right every time.
It was always good. It was just there a couple times where I said, "Oh, it's a little bit
every once in a while,
time.
things just
That's all right.
It's authenticity.
Yeah.
If it's perfect every time, you are at a chain.
Yeah, then I wonder
if it's perfect every time,
yeah, totally,
it's bland.
Yeah.
Mistakes happen? We're people. I say that the pork is perfect, and we try to make it perfect.
The pork is perfect.
But we make mistakes too. I'm cooking with wood. Every piece of wood burns at a different temperature based on how dry it is, the temperature outside, the direction of the wind. This is not put on 325 and sit it there.
Well, Pete, I have to tell you, are you hungry? I know what I'm having for dinner tonight. Sitting here with Daryl for an hour, I'm like, I am so hungry for Smokin D's.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
this has been fun.
Thanks for coming in. I really appreciate it. I hope that people learned a little bit about Smokin D's and just really how it's done right. And I appreciate your time, Daryl. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And I appreciate everybody in St. Augustine. Wonderful people, community. caring for each other. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's all. That's all we should do.
And if you have any vegetarian issues, you can take care of that too.
I can fix that. I can fix that.
All right, so this is another episode of the St. Augustine Chronicles. You can like and find us on Facebook at St. Augustine Chronicles podcast, also on YouTube. And we're produced by Pete Melfi at the 904 Now. Thanks for tuning in.